Here's the analogy for how our parts work in relationships. So imagine that there is a mother, or let's take actually a father. Let's take the first example because you're a dude probably watching this. So you have, you're a father and you have these kids. And in the magical kitchen, you serve healthy, nutritious, delicious food to your kids. And they never have to pine away or crave any other foods because they're getting delicious and nutritious foods. And whenever they are needed or at the right times that they should eat for their nutritional needs, they have the food met and there for them, and you cook it for them and prepare for them really well. So then when a woman walks up and knocks on the door and wants to share a meal with you and your kids, and you see that she's got kids of her own, and she brings over also more healthy, nutritious food. You all have sort of like a potluck, the two of you and your kids together, and you all eat together, and everything's great, and everyone eats even more nutritious food, different flavors now that maybe recipes you don't know how to cook, and she does, and it's all healthy and nutritious. Now, that's a healthy relationship. So the analogy here is obviously, hopefully it's obvious, the father and mother are the true selves of two individuals, and the kids are their various parts, including both protector and inner child parts. So you as the father are able to meet the needs of all of your parts, and when you meet in a relationship with another person who's doing the same thing, it's this beautiful time of, magical kitchen. Whenever the kids need food, they get it, and it's healthy and nutritious, and now you can share and meet each other's needs. So you, as a dad, are also feeding her kids your healthy, nutritious food, and she's feeding your kids her healthy, nutritious food, and it's all great. Okay, so you've just doubled the fun and doubled the healthy, nutritious food. Okay, so what about in most cases? So maybe somewhere between 80, 90% of relationships, this is not a scientific number for me, but just from what I've seen, I would be surprised if it's less than 80% of relationships these days. It's more like this, where you as the dad are afraid that these kids who, there's some kids who just keep craving candy or junk food, and you can't meet that. So you end up, because they're disrupting all the other kids, you end up locking them up in the basement. So there's some kids who are just in the basement, maybe rattling the doorknob, trying to get out because they want to have, fried chicken and donuts and whatever, right? Some junk food and candy. And in the meantime, you're trying to prepare food for those that aren't craving that, but you're not a very good cook either. So you're just serving up like this slop, because that's all you know how to do right now, and you're just afraid, right? So then comes knocking on the door a woman who it seems like, maybe, we'll go with this one, she seems like she has healthy, nutritious food, but it turns out it's junk food and candy. And as she's bringing this out, saying, would you like some of this candy, kids? A part of you is saying, oh, we shouldn't eat this candy because we've heard that is bad. But those kids in the basement are just rattling the door even louder because they can smell the candy or they hear about it and start breaking the door. And now this lady comes in because you're like, oh shoot, man, the kids really want to meet this girl with all this candy. So what ends up happening is the girl comes into the home here with her kids, and they're also craving candy and all this other stuff, and now you've just doubled the chaos and pandemonium. And at some point, those kids that you've locked up in the basement break through the door, and now some of the other kids who are tasked with controlling the basement door and making sure it keeps closed are now freaking out, and then the big tough ones are like, you other kids are supposed to be watching the door, you failed, and they take over and they start tackling some of the kids from the basement exiles, so to speak, and it's just a total chaos. All because that woman has brought candy, and that's what these kids in the basement are craving. And it just creates this chaos. So this is what a relationship will look like over time. So what's the analogy in this other situation where you have kids craving the candy? So the candy here is love, affection, and adoration. But at some point early on, these kids in the basement have learned or have had that warped, have had that desire for love, connection, adoration, affection warped because of micro traumas when they were starting out, right? So when they were even younger. And the attempt to keep it down is how most dudes live when they're on their own. So you see some very dysfunctional men's groups, some incel and MGTOW, this sort of thing, where they go monk. It's basically they're like, I can't handle the potential fallout of any woman walking through my door because she's just offering candy all the time. 80% of them, well, to them it seems like 100% of them are offering candy. And, so I'd rather just be alone and never open the door because I can manage those kids in the basement, keep that door shut because the candy is not in the house, right? So we just have slop. So we just settle for slop, but at least the kids don't break out of the basement, right? Versus a situation, and so so hopefully you understand that analogy in that second case, right? Dysfunctional relationship. In the healthy relationship situation, even before the healthy mate comes in and presents her healthy, nutritious food, even before that, if, along the way, 80% of the women who knock on the door of that healthy home, as soon as they see, oh, you have candy, or you have, junk food. Oh, okay. We're not interested in that. My kids aren't craving it because we have delicious and healthy food. So there's no, kids in the basement trying to get out to eat your candy. So there's no problem here. We just say, thank you, but please move on, right? And we just close the door. So keeps, there's no attraction, there's no chemistry there. But the chemistry happens because of that craving for the love and the candy that they didn't get before. Now, what's the solution? Obviously, moving from the second situation where you're dealing with slop most of the time and then the basement exiles are craving the candy, to the situation where that father is able to serve healthy, nutritious food because he's in charge. And so maybe if we take that analogy even a little bit further, in the second situation, it's not that the father can't cook healthy, nutritious food. It's that the kids don't trust him to cook. So they just sort of kick him out of the kitchen and try to cook themselves, these kids cooking. And they make shitty food, and it just turns out it's kind of this slop. All right, so that's the analogy there.